Have you ever felt misunderstood, even when you were technically speaking the same language as someone else? Or maybe you've said something that made perfect sense to you, but it left someone from another background confused or even offended. That's because communication and culture are inseparable. In this video, we'll explore how culture shapes the way we talk, listen, and connect. We'll look at theories, real-life examples, and even a few movie references to see why cultural awareness is so important. Let's begin with the basics. When we say culture, we're not just talking about food, clothing, or music. Culture is the invisible framework of values, beliefs, and social norms that guide how we interact. For example, in the United States, when someone asks, "How are you?" it's usually just a polite greeting. The expected response is quick, something like, "Good, how are you?" But in other cultures, the same question invites a detailed, honest answer about your life. Already, you can see that culture influences not only what we say, but what we expect to hear. So as we move forward, keep this in mind. Communication is always filtered through culture. Now let's transition to one of the most influential ideas in cultural communication, Edward T. Hall's concept of high context versus low context cultures. In high context cultures like Japan, China, or many Arab countries, people rely heavily on what is left unsaid, on shared understanding, on body language, and on silence. Words are important, but the context around the words carries even more meaning. In low-context cultures, like the US, Germany, or Scandinavia, people value directness and clarity. They say what they mean, and they expect others to do the same. Imagine this scenario. An American manager says, "I need this report by Friday." A Japanese employee nods politely, but doesn't complete the report on time. Why? Because in Japan, a nod may simply mean, "I hear you," not necessarily, "I agree to your request." That small difference in cultural context can lead to big misunderstandings. If you've ever seen the film Lost in Translation, you've already seen this cultural clash play out on screen. From there, let's move on to another classic framework, Geert Hofstede's dimension of individualism versus collectivism. Individualistic cultures, like the US, Canada, and much of Western Europe, emphasize independence, personal achievement, and self-expression. Speak your mind is seen as a positive trait. Collectivistic cultures like China, Korea, or Mexico emphasize family, loyalty, and group harmony. Here, putting yourself above the group can seem selfish. Take a classroom as an example. In the US, students are encouraged to openly debate, even with their professors. In China or Korea, challenging the teacher may be viewed as disrespectful. You can also see this tension in movies like Crazy Rich Asians, where Rachel follows her heart and values individual choice, while Nick feels the pull of family duty and collective obligation. Now let's connect that to another cultural difference, power distance, or how societies handle hierarchy. In high-power distance cultures like India, the Philippines, or much of Latin America, hierarchy is expected and respected. Employees may avoid questioning a boss directly. In low-power distance cultures, like Denmark or New Zealand, the hierarchy is flatter. Students may call professors by their first names, and employees feel free to challenge their managers. Think about the movie The Devil Wears Prada. Miranda Priestley embodies extreme power distance. Her staff doesn't dare question her authority. But imagine placing her in a Scandinavian office where informality rules. That leadership style wouldn't survive very long. Next, let's talk about uncertainty avoidance. how comfortable people are with ambiguity and risk. In cultures with high uncertainty avoidance, like Greece, Japan, or France, people prefer structure, clear rules, and predictability. They want to minimize surprises. In cultures with low uncertainty avoidance, like the US or Singapore, people are more flexible and willing to figure it out as they go. Think of it this way. A German engineering team wants every detail finalized before launching a product. Meanwhile, a Silicon Valley startup is saying, "Let's launch it now, we'll fix it later." Different levels of comfort with uncertainty lead to different strategies. So far, we've been talking about words, but culture also shapes what's left unspoken, nonverbal communication. Eye contact is one example. In the US, strong eye contact signals confidence. In some Asian cultures, too much eye contact can feel disrespectful. Gestures also vary. The OK sign means all good in the US, but it's offensive in Brazil. Personal space differs too. In Latin America or the Mediterranean, standing close feels natural. In Northern Europe, people prefer more distance. Think of my big fat Greek wedding. Tula's big affectionate Greek family hugs and kisses everyone, while Ian's quiet American family is shocked. Nonverbal norms tell a powerful cultural story. Another cultural lens is politeness, especially the concept of face. In many Asian cultures, saving face, protecting dignity, and avoiding embarrassment is essential. For instance, an American boss might say directly, "This presentation is weak." A Chinese boss might say, "You've worked hard, but maybe we should improve a little." Both intend to give feedback, but one preserves face while the other risks damaging it. This doesn't mean one style is better, it simply reflects cultural priorities. Culture also shapes how we view time. Monochronic cultures like the US or Germany see time as linear. Schedules and punctuality are taken very seriously. Polychronic cultures like Mexico or Egypt see time as more flexible. Relationships and interactions matter more than sticking strictly to the clock. Imagine a German guest getting frustrated because dinner in Mexico started 30 minutes late. To the hosts, being with people is more important than the clock. Both perspectives make sense within their own culture. Of course, when people cross cultural lines, culture shock often shows up most clearly in communication. Picture an American student in Japan who's frustrated that classmates seem too quiet, or a Japanese student in the US who feels drained by constant classroom debates. Neither is wrong. They're just experiencing cultural expectations clashing. If you've seen Emily in Paris, you've already watched this play out. Emily's upbeat American style collides with subtle French norms again and again. So how do we bridge these gaps? This is where intercultural communication competence comes in. It's about 3 things: knowledge, learning about cultural norms and values; skills, adjusting your style, whether that means slowing down, clarifying, or asking questions; motivation, actually caring enough to connect across differences. Real-life example, international companies often train employees so that teams in New York, Tokyo, and São Paulo can collaborate without endless misunderstandings. Language is also a cultural marker. People often code switch, shifting between languages or dialects depending on the context. For example, a bilingual student might speak Spanish at home and English at school, expressing slightly different sides of their identity in each language. This flexibility shows how language and culture shape personal identity. You might think, okay, this is useful for diplomats or global business, but why does it matter to me? The truth is, in today's world, Intercultural communication happens everywhere. On social media, in schools, at work, even in your own neighborhood. Online, you might game with someone from Brazil or join a Zoom call with people in 5 different time zones. Misunderstandings are easy, but awareness creates stronger, more respectful connections. So let's bring this all together. Communication and culture are inseparable, from high versus low context, to individualism and collectivism, to power distance, uncertainty, nonverbal signals, politeness, time and identity. Culture quietly shapes every single conversation. So the next time you're confused by someone's words or their silence, don't just think they're being difficult. Ask yourself, could this be cultural? The more we understand culture, the better we understand each other.